So I'm just wondering if we have Conseil Chris back on by phone and then
Yes,
Conseil
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, and Conseil Denis, did he log off or? Okay, you're back on. Okay, so we proceed with the next budget, solid waste budget, and I'll pass it on to the chair, Conseil Rowley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll give an overview of our operation in environmental services. And then after to present the budget, I'll pass it on to Jay and Alyssa. And for the technical question will be, Jason will handle that. So we'll start off with is the environmental service team is responsible for the management, the development, and the operation of all solid waste program in West Nipissing. The department manages 7 landfill sites, the municipal recycling center, and 4 recycling depots within the community. Approximately 75% of the households in West Nipissing are serviced by the curbside recycling program, with the remaining household utilizing the recycle depot program. In 2020, 800 tons of blue box material were diverted from our landfill. And that's equivalent to 30 transport trailers. 2,500 tires were sent to the processing. 32 tons of electronic waste were shipped out. The service, the waste collection, is a bi-weekly curbside collection of recycling, weekly curbside collection of garbage, recycling depot collection, commercial bin service, commercial recycling service, and seasonal collection of leaf and yard waste. The waste diversion is blue box program, electronic waste program, tire recycling program, access to North Bay Hazardous Waste Depot, backyard composting program, recycle coach web, and municipal mobile app. Operation, maintenance and management of landfills, Sturgeon Falls, Verner, Field, Levine, River Valley, Kipling, and Muscatine. Operation of the recycling center, general administration, and ongoing public education. Our focus and goals are to extend the communication plan and continue promotion and use of Recycle Coach app, which we're getting good reviews on that one. Review of unmanned rural recycling depot system. Continued work on Sturgeon Falls landfill expansion plan, including but not limited to road access and land engineering. Continued development of fleet maintenance plan and upgrade of equipment. Our 2021 budget highlights: Sturgeon Falls landfill engineering work for expansion plans, land clearing and brushing at required sites, wood grinding at required sites, gate house replacement at required sites. Now for the budget, I would like to pass that on to Alyssa and Jay, please.
Thanks. So I don't have it. Elisa, are you going to be putting it in front of us, or I left today without anything? Yeah. So thanks. I'll let you go through some of the detail as well. Jason will go through some of the detail, but like sewer water, this is a very specific service or project service request kind of thing. So really, the expenditures that you will see are fairly lean, and we try to keep them lean. You know, there's very little you know, fluctuation other than estimating revenues for some of our other landfill sites and so forth. The other thing I'll say is that, you know, the only big discussion that we'll probably have would be my memo, but we'll go over it. Elisa, do you want to go into some of the specific changes in operation, or explain, you know, some of the I guess the big one is the contractor lines, right?
Sure. Jason and I can kind of walk through and yeah, so
In revenue, we actually kind of reconcile our year-end last position and therefore grab the ones that we know are new builds, or sometimes we pick up people that have had garbage pickup that were incorrectly billed, which is why we sort of have picked up a little bit of extra revenue already. No new complement in the HR. That is just the year-over-year increases on the allocation of people to the solid waste budget. The contractor line, there is some details on the contractor line. So a small increase in the contractor expense. Insurance is the same as all the rest of the municipal operations with the insurance. Professional fees are consultants that take care of the landfill sites with us as far as ensuring that we maintain compliance, doing our annual reporting, doing all the testing and the well testing and things like that. They ran into additional costs because COVID has changed how they operate. And so we do have additional costs connected to our professional fees, in addition to the fact that it just, it costs more year over year to get the work done. If you flip to page 4, that is sort of the overall changes to operating. There are some projects that are listed in Jason's project list. So that's just in and out of reserve for the projects that need to get done. So the overall budget increase is actually just a 1% increase on solid waste. Like water and sewer, solid waste applies, it's sort of done as a user fee, and there are different rates that go along with the different level of service that's received. I'll just talk reserve, the general reserve on environmental, and then I'll hand it over to you, Jason, just to talk through any of the contractors or projects that are there. So the general reserve, the solid waste actually only maintains a general reserve. We don't have dedicated reserves, and that's one of those things that we need to kind of look at in the future, but it does just have this general reserve. There was some work done on a couple different sites, including the road into the Sturgeon Falls site last year that happened. And then there's surplus from 2020 rolling over into it. And again, like water and sewer, which has various dedicated reserves, of the general reserve for solid waste, it does have significant needs coming up in the future. And we also always have to keep in mind that though we're not required to budget for it, the solid waste budget must always keep in mind closure and post-closure costs, so that at some point down the road when we need to start closing landfill sites, we have an obligation to maintain them post-closure and make sure they get closed up correctly. And so there is some of that built into the reserve portion. And then I'll hand things off to you, Jason, to talk about the contractors and the projects you've got coming up.
Jason, are you there?
He's on mute.
Is that better? Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, we
Okay,
can
sorry
hear you.
about that. Thank you. Yeah, so special projects basically include some of the things that you see there on those line items on the last page, 7. Verner and Sturgeon do have a few, nothing major, but there are some costs associated with special projects. In Verner, we have just some cell development to do, and that also includes engineering. Cell development kind of means, if we're dumping in this area, we're moving to another area. So we've got to kind of build a road, a sort of an access to that, clear the area. So that's the cell development on the line item. There are some wells that are required to be installed at the Verner landfill site. And then we're looking to freshen up that front entrance as you pull into Verner. We've been kind of picking away at each one of these gatehouses over the last few years, and Verner's up on the next list. So we want to kind of remove what we have there, freshen up that whole location with a new building and give it a nice little look. And then Sturgeon Falls has some, I believe we'll see that more as well, some expansion work and some engineering, which is the 51,000. And then the special project is actually, geotechnical work that's required for the road into the expansion, for lack of better words. So other than that, that's basically it for special projects and additional fees required. I don't know if anybody has any questions on those.
Well, perhaps if I can just.
Oh, yes, sorry.
No. It's just because I'm sure these numbers for Sturgeon Falls are coming as a surprise a little bit, or haven't been communicated to council, which I think they have to go soon. But over the last year and a half, we've been working with consultants and with the MOE, and we're getting to the end of our life of the existing Sturgeon Falls landfill. And that has been a project probably for, I'm going to say, the last 15, 20 years, where we've been ready and waiting for this, not waiting, actually, hopefully, but we were knowing that this issue would be coming. And so in the near future, life as you know it at the Sturgeon Falls landfill site will be quite a bit different and probably enhanced in some ways to the customer. But behind where you put the garbage now, there's a place ready to go for a future site that will be able to sustain West Nipissing for years to come. It'll be as big as the other site, but what has to happen is we have to close down the original site and then move a new cover area in the back. Now, with that, there'll be a variety of different options that will be brought to council in the next little while, but perhaps doing like most municipalities are doing now. There's kind of a waste transfer station system where basically you'd be allowed to get to the gate and then directed to move in a variety of different bins at that point, and then there would be trucks that would move it along. I don't know if anybody have been to the Sudbury landfill site. Pretty cool. And so back in the day when I was a kid, we used to go drive around all of the seagulls and all of the bears and all of that and get to the part where they wanted you to dump. And now you don't even see that anymore. That's all done behind the scenes. And so what this isn't a suggestion either. It is a legal requirement. We are at our C of A capacity for that landfill site. So we must continue this process in order to continue to serve our residents. So what Lisa was referring to in terms of getting ready for the future and in terms of reserve positions, our major expense is going to be updating the West or the Sturgeon Falls landfill site. And so we're in a fairly healthy position, and we are working not in partnership, but we call them that, but we've been working very well with MOECC and they've been very supportive with respect to what we're doing. And even though we're at the end of our life cycle, they understand and they're working with us. So those are the expenditures. So if there are any questions on any of what was presented so far, I feel I understand that there'll be a discussion as to the added service kind of thing, and we'll move to that second pipe portion as a special project, Mr. Chair, once all of the questions for the budget have been answered.
Thank you, Jay. Yes, and if I may add, a transfer station would be beneficial to the resident that you use the Sturgeon Falls landfill. That way, they would no longer be driving on top of garbage, making flats, stuff like that. So that's a good point of view on this subject. I'd like to open up the floor for a question, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure the list of for contractors for landfill, when we make reference to budget, is that the Muskasong landfill? If you look on page 5, or
yes.
Okay, so budget is Muskasong, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to clarify that. I did have some budget questions pertaining to stewardship. That's one that I do know that there's been a lot of movement or a lot of dialogue in the outside world saying that we were at risk of losing that revenue and it was extended. Is there any update with the stewardship revenue that council should be aware that, it might be impacted in the upcoming future?
Elisa, do you want to do it?
Yeah, so it absolutely has been a discussion on and on and on, and it feels like we are actually reaching the end of that, in that in 2020, they introduced sort of for comment, and then it will come before the provincial legislation at some point this year to sort of solidify what is happening with recycling and the stewardship money that goes along with it then. So that they have been slowly transitioning some of the other recycling money back to producer-based, and the same is expected to happen with the blue box. So we have a tentative date of January 1st, 2025 as a tentative date when blue box for our area will revert to producer-based. And at that point, the stewardship funding obviously changes its entire format as well at that point. So they're rolling out the change over, I think, 3 years. They're
3
phasing
years,
it in. Yeah, as different areas move through rolling back to a producer-based system.
Okay, thank you. And if I may, Mr. Chair, just pertaining to the actual budget. So recycling right now, are we generating any money with the recycling? Like, are we selling any of the goods that's being collected for recycling so far? Like, I know some years we store because the market value is not good and we wait, but where can we see within the budget the recycling revenues that are being generated throughout the year?
Jason? I guess it would be Jason.
Well, at least I can mention where it is in the budget, but we do sell our recycled material. We sell our fibers, we sell our scrap metal, we sell electronic waste. So there is some revenue. At least speak to as to where it is reflective in the budget.
Yeah, so in the miscellaneous income line is the line for recycling revenue, and a big chunk of that this current year is the fact that they sold scrap metal this year, which is why it's so much larger. Yeah, it's not a money maker when we sell the recycling material.
Okay, thank you. And I know that at the environmental committee, when they adopted the budget, that there was a reference to mechanic and sharing mechanic from the municipality. And instead of increasing the complement by one full-time employee, that it would probably, there'd be savings because of going half. So is that reflected in the HR cost for this year?
There wouldn't be an HR cost. What was decided at the company level was not to make that expenditure. So there isn't any expenditure or any line item for mechanics under West Nipissing Environmental Services. What it would be then would be just a replacement of perhaps using a contractor line of where they normally do machinery repair. We would be using the local, our local mechanics, and we don't know to what level yet. We still have to work that out. But we would be using the public works, quote unquote, mechanics to assist with the fleet where they can in West Nipissing Environmental Service. So we're trying to consolidate and have an economy of scale. So that if there's an expenditure to WNES, it would be in their material or in their fleet maintenance, and they're potentially unbudgeted yet because we haven't figured out there might be a corresponding revenue to West or to the municipality for the use of the HR time.
Okay. And I was just wondering, hazardous waste, it's good. I mean, if we have that level of expenditure, it means that we have local residents of West Nipissing that are traveling to North Bay to dispose hazardous waste. Is there ever any opportunity, and maybe not through this budget, that we have a collection in West Nipissing and transport hazardous waste to North Bay for our residents?
We could bring that to council as an added service, but we'd have to cost that out. I understood it was cost prohibitive way back when we decided this, but I guess I infer also from your question, because I'm also a user of the services. It is less convenient for us. It would be really nice to have a local solution. So we'll have a look at that.
Okay, perfect. And our last budget last year, since we're dealing with user fees and there's a fluctuation when it comes to collection and to the maintenance of the landfill, there was the opportunity of looking at actual user fee per landfill and prorate that user fee to the users. This was one department that we said that could be done. So whatever the cost, for example, like for the community of Levine, the users of that landfill would pay for the cost for that specific landfill, and the same thing with the other landfills, but we never got around to that discussion. Could that be explored this year before we get into the budget next year?
If that is council's wish. My philosophy is that takes away your economy of scale, and we had a tendency of trying to rationalize and get away from that community thing. Otherwise, the rates potentially, or any risk in one area could bring it through the roof. It's a little bit like what we did when we first amalgamated with sewer and water, is to harmonize our rates. Because if you had to, if the residents of Verner, as an example, had to bear the cost of what it would cost, or even a small bore sewer treatment system in field, their rates would be about 3 times what they are now. So it's something that we'll bring to council and see if there's direction from council.
Okay. And I guess my final question is, one of the comments that I often hear from residents from Sturgeon, of course, being West Nipissing and having a lot of landfills, people have tendency in comparing the service and the accessibility. So people in Sturgeon and Cashbay always wonder why, when they go to the landfill, that they have to pay a fee to dispose their garbage, when residents in the outlying area can have access to their landfill and not pay anything to dispose their garbage. Is there a rationale or an explanation that we can share with people so they can understand it?
So as a general rule, the reason why is because those landfill sites have door-to-door collection. And so they have the service offered by the municipality already for that kind of thing, where the residents in the outlying areas don't have collection or pay for collection. So they have landfill site only. And so they are responsible for bringing their own stuff to the landfill. There is a slight advantage, I suppose, to what they can bring versus what they can't bring. But then we try and make the services available, or by having spring cleanups and so on and so forth, which is what most municipalities do. But I'm going to say right here in God's country, here on Deer Lake, we're responsible for bringing our garbage every Saturday to the dump, and they don't have to do that in Cashbay and Sturgeon.
Okay.
Councillor Dees?
Okay, well, I'll ask a question about that, because when you say that the service is available, I think if I want to put a couch on the street, I can call you, because I live in Sturgeon Fall, I can call the 2250 and say I got a couch, so can it be picked up? Or because I cannot bring it to I think Councillor Rowley, you're shaking, I think I know the answer, but what I'm hearing from you, Jay, is that we have that service pick up for some item, like if I live in Levine, for example, my couch, I can bring it to directly to the land site. But I cannot do that in Sturgeon, and I cannot bring it. I have to bring it also, but when? Only once a month.
Well, yeah, once a month, and then there's a little bit more time on spring cleanup, I believe. And right now during COVID,
COVID,
there isn't anything, but yeah, there is a difference where I can get rid of my old couch anytime, except that there's only one day a week anyway for us. It's only Saturdays. versus 5 days a week for the municipal or for Sturgeon Falls. So yes, there are variations, but
Okay, can I ask another question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so refresh my memory. What is the difference between stewardship money and it's going to be changed to procedure base? What is it? I don't even understand my writing. What is
So-
coming in 225?
Well, the province of Ontario is looking at recycling right now, and instead of putting the onus on the individual and landfill sites, they're putting the onus on the producers of the product that recycling is. And Lisa can get a little bit more. I'm trying to be very general, but the whole manner in which it's funded and who's responsible for it is being examined and looked at this year by the province. And so there will be even a request put out as to who wants to do recycling in the general area. And that will be then mandated by an association of producers, Elisa. I haven't delved down that deeply.
Yeah, it is going to be it's going to be the producer's responsibility to deal with the recycling material. And so how the producers get together in order to fund that is one of those still in the works kind of things. But what it means is that the municipality won't be doing recycling. It goes back, and the whole cost is going to be borne by the producers that make the material in the first place and are contributing to the recycling. Now, what they've said in all of that is that the level of service, the municipalities have said the level of service must stay the same. So we have recycling in West Nipissing. They are going to continue to provide recycling in West Nipissing. There might be an opportunity for West Nipissing Environmental Services to bid on being the contractor who does the pickup in the area, that then delivers it to a depot point, and then it gets handled from that point and things like that. But it is going to be this sort of consortium of folks producing, and that it has been a long battle to get here, and that I think I've heard about it, for as long as I've been with the municipality, and certainly the current system hasn't worked well, and it's always been a dispute between the producers, and this stewardship is not really the province; it's in between groups. So it's a little bit gray for what it will look like for us, because they don't have the entire plan mapped out yet, other than they have got a firm commitment from the government to move forward with it and to start putting those dates in place and start letting the producers map out what's going to happen next.
Okay, kind of understand it a bit. So if I can, I'm finished, just summarize the first thing that I asked about the difference. So if we, Sturgeon and Cashbay, the difference is our garbage is pick up at our door on a weekly basis. The recycling, it's every 2 weeks, and we're open once a month. Like no COVID. We're not talking about COVID, but usually okay. And when you go to anywhere else, it's they have to bring their own garbage once a week, and they can bring everything they want. Is it basically kind of?
No, not everything they want. Everything that's accepted at the
Well, I know they cannot bring anybody there because that would not be legal. So I figure there is a standard. I'm just generally speaking, okay? So, and they don't have, okay.
Your general question, your general statement, to clarify, is generally is accurate. That's what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Yvonne, you had a question? Oh, you're on mute, Yvonne.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, obviously recycling has helped extend the life cycle of the dump, and hopefully in 225, as you had mentioned, it'll work. Nevertheless, we must look into recycling as a serious way of extending the life of our dumps. I just want to point out the road that you mentioned on the Sturgeon Falls dump. Thank God. I mean, that was the best thing you ever done. Hazardous waste, and I agree with Mayor Joanne that we should maybe look at the possibility of trying to bring it into the area. It would certainly help, and along with Councilor Rowley's idea about another method of recycling, and that's having a place where you can generally drop off some goods that would be good for someone else. And I'd love to go shopping there, like everybody else on this page. As in your introduction, Mr. Chair, you mentioned that there's 800 tons of blue box and tires and 32 tons of electronic waste. How many tons of scrap metal waste did we have? It's not mentioned here.
Jason, please, how many tons did we ship?
I don't have that number right offhand, but we had a few years stockpiled, so it wasn't reflective of just what we caught. I think, Lisa, I think it was around, I want to say around 150 tons.
I'm just seeing it. I've got it quickly here.
I'd have to confirm, but it was stockpiled. We had it kind of stockpiled for about 3 years, so it's I think we usually estimate roughly around 50,000 tons we collect each year.
Okay. Great. I mean, that
with those exact numbers, I think Elisa might be able to pull it up, but
I don't have it right very quickly. Yeah. I'd have to look up.
And the revenue, the value of the material fluctuates too as well, right? So it's not always worth the same amount. It's a commodity base like anything else.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a projected forecast.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's basically all I had to say, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Yvon. Councillor Denis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this question will go to Jason. I've been getting a lot of questions about from the island units. Just wondering, is there specific bins that they can just leave their garbage? I know there used to be something at the, I think it's the Starlight Marina. There might be something at the docks there, not under there, but I'm not sure if the Starlight issue is still on. They still have the capability of, I know they have access to all the dumps, but when they're going by boat, they just want to go home. They don't want to bring the garbage. So is there been somewhere that we have or could place that would help them?
That would be
Pardon me?
That would be an application for a transfer station. You have to have approval for a transfer station, or a business brings in a big bin. If the business pays for it, then yes, then they.
Who was paying? Did we have it in Starlight there a while back, Jay?
Starlight has their own bin service. They rent off West Nipissing Environmental Services, so I believe that whoever rents at their dock, whoever goes through there, can utilize that bin.
They probably charge it.
It would depend on the location, the access point. I believe some of the depending on where they're coming in and coming out, they can utilize a landfill that they go by.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Keys used to charge over there, and they've stopped, and that created an issue, if you remember. We have put blue bins at Minnehaha Bay, but just as an added service. But I have to say, and there might be one at in Cashbay. But the other thing that's weird is because of the weirdness of the islands, we don't charge them any landfill fee, right? So they're not paying. They don't pay for landfill.
I believe they are. They are
Seasonal, are they?
No.
Well,
Excuse me. Island units, Jay, are $64. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, we do have seasonal and we have island unit.
Who is not paying then?
So we have an island rate, but the islands down in the French area are not paying. So Sandy Island and there's a few other ones just in that area. They are not paying any fees at all because the argument was they were taking their garbage somewhere else. So they've not ever been included in that island rate. There was a discussion we had at council a little while ago when we brought the island fees in, and we decided to keep them excluded from the rates.
Thank you.
Or they're not getting any services from Sandy Island, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, so they're not charged that $64, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and the other islanders down further, the French, they had to go to the Kiss, but that's closed, so I don't know what they're doing now.
I don't know.
Is there an option for them? Or?
Well, there is the Levine landfill on passing through. It depends on where they'd be accessing, coming in and out, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
that's the only
something,
access.
Yeah,
They used to have access at the KISS, now they have no access, so
right.
probably hear about that one, so anyways, okay, thank you.
Something.
Yeah,
to be-
Thank
Is it-
you. Thank
Sorry,
you, Councilor Denis. Councilor Leo first, please.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Jay answered, there's one bin in not one bin, one receptacle in Cashbay when you come off the lake. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Leo. Madam Mayor?
just clarity. So the island units who are not paying, I heard French River and I heard Sandy Island.
So Sandy Island and the areas, there's a couple other little islands that are right around that area, but the islands that are in Verner are paying, the islands that are in Cashbay are paying. It's really just Sandy Island that is not paying.
Okay, and French River's not paying either, right? The Upper French?
I'd have to go and look. 'Cause I think it's just, I'd have to go and look and see what islands are down there.
Okay,
Do you have any more Chris, you're on the telephone. Do you have any questions?
No, well, yes, I guess I do. So I didn't realize the Sturgeon Falls site was open 5 days a week. So I pulled up the website. And so because we had this couch conversation, I'm reading here, free Saturday starting again on April 10th, 2021. Free dumping is available on the first Saturday of the month from 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. For long weekends, the free service is moved to the second Saturday of the month. So doesn't that really put everybody on par for couches and things like that? Am I wrong? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Councilor Lees?
Well, I think that's exactly when I did my summary that I said it's once a month. It's open. We cannot go all the time, and it's open every day. But there's a fee if we're dumping. If I go today and dump something, I will have to pay a fee for whatever I'm bringing. So that's a difference too that I'm trying that I try to make. But yes, it's free once a month, and it's pick
and
up
the spring
every
cleanup
week.
as well.
Pardon me?
Yeah.
And there's the spring cleanup as well. We have almost 3 weeks of spring cleanup where the landfill has the free access.
Okay, so when is that going to be? Because that was my next. I wanted to inquire about that.
Well, with the lockdown right now, it's typically
Wow.
at the end of May, beginning of June. So we're just not sure if we're going to move into another lockdown or not. So once we get a decision after the 20th of May, we'll start advertising when the free
Okay.
will be. It's likely at the end of May, beginning of June is when it typically is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, one, please, last question, Madam Mayor, or comments, and then we'll get to this budget. Thank you.
okay. Well, I want a question pertaining to the projects, pertaining to the lifespan of our landfills. I know that all our landfills were investigated to determine how long that they have as far as the lifespan. I believe that our auditor's report of last year identified that the Verner site had 1 more year left as far as the life cycle. So, and well, I read.
Yeah, so there's it might have referenced the cell. So there's predetermined cells that we utilize. I know it doesn't quite show it when you're there, but there is on paper, there are cells that have a certain volume. So that might have been what they're referencing. And we're just moving to the next area.
Okay, because
Verner's healthy. Verner timeline is extremely healthy.
It's actually, we consider it a super site.
Yes.
Okay, so really the only site right now that we have to be concerned is the one with the sturgeon, where
Yes.
we reach capacity. So when are we going to be doing this switch for sturgeon? Is it in 2021 or is that going to be done in 2022?
Likely 2022. There's still analysis and a lot of working with MOE, getting the site prep, getting a road that when he was saying it wasn't the nice road that Councillor Yvonne was talking about. It's figuring out a road to go around the existing footprint of the landfill to get behind the other one. So it's all that.
Okay. Okay.
And are we going to be keeping the recycling portion at the same location, or is that also going to be shifting as well?
No, that would stay at the same, the recycling center would stay at the same location for now. All of that
Okay.
area where we are, none of that's changing.
Okay, thank you.
So could we bring this portion of this budget to a close? Would like to vote on this, what is proposed, and then we'll bring the special projects after. But what
I
was
would-
presented now? What was
I-
presented?
We're dealing with the budget, so this is what is being presented. There's also another project, so I think we need to deal with the other project to have a global understanding of the actual budget that we agree upon.
Well, Madam Mayor, right now, we've discussed this portion of it, so let's move on with this portion, and we'll add the other one to it. If it is council's wish to move forward with the other one, that will be added to this one here. But there is a good understanding of what is presented by staff now, so I would like to call this portion for a vote.
Well, first of all, make sure there are not other financial questions, and then.
Well, there is financial question in the other, yes,
Well,
in the
that
other
will
proposal.
have to do with the global budget, so that's why we should wait
Okay, so
to deal with
okay, so
everything, because it might change the outcome of this one, right?
okay, so could Jay present the next item, which is the Levine and Cashbay Recycling Depot?
Well, I had an introductory put at the top. I thought it would be attached to this, but that's okay. So we did the costing of what it would cost, and surprised us as well with Jason looking at what these bins actually end up costing us. And so the recommendation from Jason was a minimum of 6 bins. If you had too many, and you'd be creating a worse scenario with a mini dump. So you've got the acquisition cost and the site prep on these dumps, which regardless of even a land acquisition, we're not even talking about that because we're assuming we own the land somewhere. We would be looking at about $143,000 in the first year. The 143 that is not a magical number, it's a coincidence, but it comes up to a little bit under 10, it's 14% is 1%. So if you're looking at 143,000, you're looking at municipal resource impact of about 11%, which on your budget as opposed to 1%, which was so the increments around 10%. I'm kind of fuzzy or rambling all over here. So, I don't know that there are options for certainly less, because it wouldn't be a staff recommendation, because like I say, the maintenance of those areas, if you didn't have enough recycling bins to offer the service, then you would have a problem. So I'm not going to speak to the, do I agree it's a good idea or a bad idea? But that's what it would cost. The ongoing additional runs or add-ons to runs and additional cost is about, in today's dollars, around 17,000. And so, once you set up, it's less expensive, but the setups of these things are actually quite expensive. I don't know if there's anything that I can add. I'd rather respond to questions or listen to you folks talk about it.
Thank you, Jay. Councillor Leo.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I know another 11% for people in Cashbay, and then you already have a recycle pickup. I mean, there's no way people in Cashbay would support this, so I will not support it. If the people in Levine want to pay for it, fine, but I'm sure people in Cashbay already have recycle pickups, and there's no way I'll vote against it. Thank you.
Councillor Denis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, when I originally put that on the agenda, there was no intention of having 6 containers. It doesn't make sense. I was looking at 1, maybe 2, which were supposed to be recycled last winter, and I guess they're not done. I'm not sure. But I think we're way overboard on what's needed in Levine. I'm not the expert on environmental, but to me, it doesn't make sense. We had an original budget of 7,500, I think, last year, but now we're up to 140. It doesn't make sense. We don't need 6 bins, and I don't think Cashbay needs 6 bins. I think you're going into the optimum recycling, which we don't need. We should try 1 bin and see what happens, and then go from there. I know the truck goes to North Manettville anyways, so you can add some cost to that, I guess. But we're the only community within West Nipissing that don't have recycle. The only one. Even all the smaller ones have recycle. So I don't know why we wouldn't try at least one bin and see, and then minimize the cost here.
So we would be a 2-stream, at least a 2-stream. So it'd be a minimum 2 bins, and because there's one's cardboard and paper, the other one's plastic. But the other part of why the staff recommended this is because of the expectation of having only putting something there and then having everything thrown around on the side. In their experience, when you have less than and the ability to maintain it in the right amount of time and the whole thing. So history has given us, has explained to us that to have any less than 6 would be problematic in terms of increased maintenance or increased runs or capacity to actually meet the public's needs if they decided that that was the case. With respect to recycling, I don't want to argue, but you have recycling at your landfill site the same way Kipling does and the same way River Valley does. We don't, Muskasong, same thing, or Vadro, same thing. So there's only certain central recycling areas. We put one in Crystal Falls, and that's a problem too, but they have nothing down there because they too had their landfill site closed at the amalgamation, and I believe we have recycling bins out in North Manettville for that reason too, because they don't have access to the dump. In fact, they have door-to-door pickup there because they have no dump. So, but anyway, that's just to clarify.
Thank you, Jay. I also would like to elaborate on this. Is Levine does have recycling, like River Valley. There is sea containers at the dump. So when you do go to the dump, you have recycling service. It's not like they don't have it. They do have it, but it's a different system. Madam Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, like most of the landfill sites do have recycling, but you look at the community of Verner, and Verner has at the arena quite a few bins. And I just believe that there's such a great appetite out there of residents that want to increase their capacity in recycling. I agree that the upfront cost brings up quite an increase, but as Conseiller Denis stated as well, if you look at the number of recycling bins that you have in the community of Verner, I'm just wondering here at the top of my head, why are we not going per capita? Because we look at a population rate, which is different in Levine, which is different in Cashbay, and which is different in Verner, and the volume of households. So I would agree that I'm not the expert, but the upfront cost is a one-time fee. And I think what we should do is if we want people to start increasing recycling, reducing the garbage bags in our landfills, and we had adopted a resolution by Councillor Chris back in 2019, which was all related to environment and how we can protect our environment and be more green for the future. And let's all do our contribution. So bottom line, I don't think that Cashbay was expecting to get 6 bins. They probably, would be having a great start with 3 recycling bins, and the same as Levine. That would reduce your upfront cost by 50%. And that would bring you to roughly around $62,000. And if you look at the environmental budget, we had a surplus of 71,000 in 2020. So I mean, here again, you would still have a small balance remaining. But the whole objective is that you want people to start increasing recycling. And we don't have the capacity, from what I understand, to do more than a 2-week pickup for recycling. So if you have outlying requests from individuals that want to participate in reducing garbage at our landfills, which has a benefit, it's a win-win situation for all. I personally find it's doable by mitigating the increase. Because if you were to go to 62,000 and what we have in our document, 1% equals roughly nearly $15,000. I mean, it goes down to 4.28 if you reduce your upfront cost by 50%. And 4.28 doesn't factor taking money from the surplus to also bring it down to your original proposal, Mr. Chair. So there's an opportunity here that can be done. And at the same time, there was a decision that we did, all of council, that we had agreed to implement the recycling bins in the community of Levine and Cashbay. Both those communities were told they would have this service. And it's not to their fault and not to our fault and not to staff, but it was not implemented in 2020 due to COVID. That was the main reason. Up to September 2020, we were told that COVID was the main factor why it wasn't done. Then we found out at the end of the year that Environmental Services, the company, was not informed. And again, that has nothing to do with the decision of council, and it has nothing to do with the affected residents that requested the service and were told they would get the service. So I firmly believe that we made a decision, and that decision, if we want to change it today, should be a reconsideration, because it's no fault of council that there was a delay that was done with the implementation of the service. So, Mr. Chair, I do hope that you are receptive in looking at reducing the upfront cost as proposed, which would reduce the increase to slightly over 4%, and that there'd be an opportunity to grab money from the surplus and expand recycling in West Nipissing.
Thank you. Councillor Denis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to continue on that discussion, we know that the last council had agreed on a pilot project in 2017, I think, or 2018, that they agreed, and it was agreed that they would have a pilot project in Levine. I don't know, that's 6 years ago. I don't know where it's gone, but there's something not jiving. So that's two councils that have agreed to provide recycling services and still no services.
Thank you. Councillor Chris, you have any comment?
Yeah, I do have a couple of comments. So just going back to what Jay, the CAO, was saying earlier about about the cost being covered, sort of spread out against everybody. So if we go user-based, then I think for some people the cost will be extremely prohibitive. For example, I look at the landfill site costs, and we look at Verna and Levine, and they are much higher cost landfills than like Badge Row. I'd be a happy camper because my landfill site only costs $11,000, a year, whereas Verna and Verna is 56 and Levine is 48. So if we're not spreading those costs out, then some people are going to win and some people are going to lose. So in I agree that we need to we need to encourage as much recycling as possible, but this the argument really it's sort of like the flip side of the power gen discussion we had earlier. People in field don't want to pay for recycling in in Levine. So that's my take on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chris. Again, Councillor Lees?
Okay. Again, it seems that I don't know where that thought was lost, that we're one administration and we're keeping all our identity, but we're one administration. That's what West Nipissing is, and all the tax go in one pot, which in the administration there's user fee. I can understand. I don't want to charge people water and sewer if they don't have it. For God's sake, they're paying for how do you call that, un puits là. But at this point of time, it's ridiculous since 2018, that project is accepted and it goes forward, then it doesn't happen. There's a new resolution put on and I got the minutes of November 5th when it happened, and it's very clear. And there's a solution that was brought up by Madame Mayor that, I mean, we have a surplus. So let's take advantage to try to put something into place that's been in the making since 2018. And again, if we take the difference between the 62, we have more than covered almost covered the year for operation. And I mean, next year it will be operation. And what would it cost? They have to go to Monetville to empty the box. So how much would it cost? They do that, what, once a month, once a week? What is it? I don't know the answer. When the big bin, did they empty that once a week?
Once a week, yes.
Okay, so once a week they go. So that's, let's say 50 weeks a year, 52 weeks a year. I mean, what it costs from Monetville. How far is Levine from Monetville, like from recycling? That's the way we could really manage. And there's a cost, obviously, but not as much as we can do if we buy the bin how do you say that? Up front?
Up front.
And that's amazing. And the bin is good for what? What is the lifetime of a bin?
20 plus years.
So, I mean, in 20 plus years, probably, well, maybe some of you guys going to be around, but we're not going to be making it. And we're going to offer a service that we should offer. And we said we did for 2 council in a row. So, and yes, there's a resolution, and I agree that they have to go back then and vote down or vote on. That's as simple as that, because the decision is made. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll have to take a decision on this, and my get on this is, if it would increase the recycling, then but it does not. It creates garbage in town. That's what it does. So Levine has the service just like every other community, like River Valley does. So let's take a vote on this. Who agrees?
Point of clarification, Mr. Chair. Pertaining to the cost for the field landfill, I heard the councillor say what was it, 11,000 to maintain the landfill in field?
Oh, Badgero.
Field landfill is
okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I wanted to clarify, because I thought I heard the councillor say that the field maintenance cost for their landfill was 11,000, but that's the Muskasong, not the field landfill. Okay, I wanted to clarify that. But I also wanted to clarify the issue pertaining to logistically decision made. And yeah, normal due course, there's a reconsideration when it's within the 12 months. But when the decision was made in November 2019, and due to COVID, and we were told that the implementation was not done in September 2020 because of COVID. That's a 10-month span where we had no control because of COVID. Then we found out in December pertaining to the costing with the company of West Nipissing Environmental Services. So logistically, I'm not even sure why we are debating the issue on whether the project should be implemented, because it should be a reconsideration of the decision. And that's where I'm asking you, Mr. Chair.
I'm telling you.
Before you call this to a vote, I think you need to procedurally verify the issue of the reconsideration, because if it's reconsideration, that means that 2/3 would need to say that we don't agree
Point
with
of order, point of order. I think we're getting off the topic. The point is that at one time we had asked the the group to look at how much it would cost us. And that's what they have done. They come back and they've given us a price on how much it's going to cost us. Whether we want to put that into place right now is the question. Solid Waste was asked to give us a price and to
There's a point of
recommend-
order, Mr. Chair, so please rule on the point of order.
Ruling
But
on the
keep in
point of order.
mind,
I'm
keep
I'm
in
ruling
mind-
that Dan does have, is right on this, and I'm ruling that we move forward
Okay,
with this
no.
vote.
I'm
I'm-
not,
hey,
Mr. Chair, I'm appealing that. I'm asking you procedurally, within your procedural bylaw, where does it state that it would not be a reconsideration? Because that reconsideration was discussed in December. It was discussed in December. And true, we were waiting. We were told, not that we needed a cost. We were told that unfortunately, West Nipissing Environmental Services had not included this in their budget. It was an oversight. It was an oversight. And they came back and said, let us deal with it through the 2021 budget. Now, I'm asking the question through you, Mr. Chair, to staff, logistically, is it valid to say that it would be a reconsideration, even though our procedural bylaw states 12 months?
I agree with what Councillor Dan just said. It was asked that we, environmental bring you cost, and we did. Now we're voting on if we proceed with this service. So I'll move forward with this.
So you
That
are
was-
not
I
responding
just-
to the reconsideration, which I'm asking through you, Mr. Chair, to our staff.
I'm just telling you. what-
Procedurally, I would like to have an answer.
Madam Mayor, I just ruled on this. We're moving forward with this.
Oh, so that's
Okay.
very dangerous.
There you go.
Point of
Well-
order, point of order. I don't think it's legal to proceed on the vote at this time, and I want a clarification on it because council already agreed to have bins in Levine, and they agreed in 2016. And if we're gonna re-vote, you're gonna need 2/3 to carry the vote. And first of all, your vote is illegal. It's been less than a year.
Okay, I'm gonna have to ask Jay, if, in 2016, I do not recall voting on this, saying that they will get it. I do recall saying that you will be receiving information on how much it costs.
No, we voted in
I asked
2019.
Jay, excuse me, I asked Jay.
I don't have all the info. If you
I
voted,
do have it in front of me. I do have it in front of me.
Well, then we will have to have it all in front of us.
Okay, well, there you go. You cannot vote today if you want that. And I'm going to tell you exactly where to go. Go to our site on November 5th. And you got to get all the information that you need about the addendum, about the price and when it was to be put into place. And after that, go and listen to council meeting that it was not done because of COVID and with no fault of anybody. And so there you
Okay,
go.
I will
It
get it.
is.
I will get all I need.
Yeah,
do not need
I
the
can
rest.
even send you a copy if you want to, Councillor Rowley. Make it
Oh, you're
easy for
very-
you. Yes, I'm
you're-
nice like that.
You're generous. Thank you.
I am.
Well, I'm going to put it on record, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to be voting in favor of this budget until we can have a true answer to the procedures and making sure that the reconsideration issue, and unless we can also commit to the project that we had promised to the residents of Levine and Cashbay that they would have access to the service.
do you want
Jay.
my?
Please.
I mean, I don't think that there's any, I want to have a look at it too. I conceptually have a slight difference of what transpired when I originally said yeah, I think we have some used bins, which, was something that was just said that way. We didn't know for a fact. And my understanding was always that, we would have to get back to council with a final plan. So there was a conceptual, like, yeah, in principle, we agree to it. But we have to get back to it with a plan. So given my recollection and everybody else's recollection, I'd like to see what the minutes say and what was agreed and so on and so forth, and go on from there. With respect to ruling, typically the chair, if the chair is on a point of order, he has the right to rule on a point of order, and there's a right to appeal, and then it's done at that point. But I think in fairness right now, I don't think it changes anything in our lives right now to just put that aside. And that's the only variable that I see for today, putting it aside. And let's have a look at what's going on would be my recommendation to deal with it fresh.
Then I say that we have an impasse, so let's put that aside and we'll bring it back at a later date once we got all the information.
Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
Denis.
you need to vote on settle my point of order, which was that this is not legal. So could you address my point of order?
I think he was.
This vote.
Your point of order will be your point of order will be handled with our new information once everyone has in front of them all the minutes that was brought. And my recollection is the same.
Yeah, the Councilor Senecal, he's actually ruling in favor of your order, saying that given what you're saying, given what the merit, let's go back and get more information and discuss it later. So there isn't any illegal vote. He's actually deferring this question.
Well, he's deferring now, but he wasn't deferring 2 minutes ago. And I would like for council or staff to go to 2016 and look at the pilot project for recycling in Levine.
I will look at all of the information relevant
Thank
for
you.
this. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So with this, we'll come back at a later date that it's convenient to all of council, and we'll proceed from there with all information, because I do not recall it that way. So with this, it ends my committee. Madam Mayor, all back to you.
Thank you, Kosi, really greatly appreciated. So moving from here, I guess this does conclude both budget meetings, both budget for water and wastewater and solid waste for today. Then we'll stay tuned to receive the additional information. And these would be the last two budgets that we wanted to be able to firm up to also move forward with their municipal budget. So I'm assuming, and just before concluding, going to our CEO, that at our first meeting of May, are we going to have everything for the first meeting of May or the third meeting of May?
Well, we're going to have, just thinking out loud right now, I'd like to put things aside so we can move on some issues that we've agreed about, like sewer and water and environmental fall into the same problems that our tax one. They'd like to move on getting stuff done, so that if we can get those two approved, we can postpone the environmental services one by one meeting to clarify council's position on the last point. Okay,
thank you. And will it be possible to obtain and I know it was mentioned, the revised workbook for municipal? Okay, we'll probably have that in our council info or council package.
Yeah, Elisa's working with communications to make those adjustments, and they're working on it.
Okay, thank you. Conseiller Dan, Conseiller Elise.
So just as a point of clarification, does that mean that the first meeting in May we'll be able to approve the budget, the standalone budget of the municipality? And then, because for all and purpose, this doesn't really have a impact on the budget increase or what we're asking the taxpayers to pay, the 2%. So is that, it's a point of clarification through you, Madam Mayor, to the CEO.
So nothing, yes, you're going to be approving the expenditure estimates for 2021 for what we call the municipal budgets. You're going to be approving the expenditure estimates for sewer and water. But there is a budgetary impact to the discussion. I mean, I listened to the mayor with respect to going down to 60,000 or whatever, but I would rather have all of that info and comment prior to talking. So there's no way logistically that you're going to get the environmental services budget on next week's agenda. That will be in 2 weeks' time, unless there's a deferral for other reasons. So, but the sewer and water and public works, sewer and water and public works. Oops, sorry, you said you are part of the municipality. We'll be on next week.
And subsequent to Conseil Dan, which we're saying, yeah, it's going to go on the first week of May, our first meeting of May. Historically, it was always great when we got a presentation from our Director of Corporate Services identifying what the 2% represents to the taxpayers as far as an increase compared to last year. Is that going to be doable as well, to have some type of...
Lisa, can you run the Okta numbers?
Yeah, and certainly, just passing the budget for the municipal level, there are several steps we still need to take. So we need still to do ratios and rates, and that's when we often have that kind of conversation about how it impacts people if we start to look at those things. Absolutely, we'll have that back when we have that ratio and rates discussion for sure.
Okay, Conseil Ali. You are on mute, Conseil Alice.
See, okay, just to make sure I understand, so on the 4th of May, we can expect to be able to pass the budget.
Yeah.
Okay, so that will be a day before last year, because last year it was approved on May the 5th. So we're going to gain a day this year, guys. So that's not bad. That's not bad. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions? None? Okay. Would there be a volunteer as a mover and a seconder for the resolution to adjourn? Conseil Alice? Conseil Yvon?
Il est proposé par conseiller Lise Sénécal, secondé par conseiller Yvon Duhaime. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-36, being a bylaw of the municipality of West Nipissing, to confirm the proceedings of council at its budget meeting held on the 26th day of April 2021, shall come into force and take effect on the date it is passed.
Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried, adopté.
Il est proposé par conseillère Lise Sénécal, appuyé par conseiller Yvon Duhaime. Be it resolved that the budget meeting of council held on April 26, 2021 be adjourned.
Any objections? Carried, adopté. Thank you, everyone. This concludes our meeting for today. Merci.